Hello everybody, Decaff back again. Today we're going to go over adding in some decals on the side of the airplane. Last time we talked about shrink wrapping the tail logo on, and that might have been a little bit confusing for some of you, uh, but I hope my supplementary videos will help explain that better for you. Today we're going to be adding this Lufthansa decal onto the side. I couldn't find the right font to use. So rather than make this as a text piece then convert it over, I just went ahead and made my own version using the same method as I did when making this decal back here. So let's go ahead and start working on this. So what we want to do is we want to get it so that it's right up on the surface of the model. Now we could use shrink wrapping to do that, but there's one thing with shrink wrapping that is not very nice, and that is that it doesn't project onto a model. It only wraps your model, wraps your decal around the model. So to show you a little bit about what I mean by this is, let's say that this is exactly how I wanted my airplane to look from the side. Well, if I were to shrink wrap this on, what this is going to do is, first it's going to rotate it a little bit like that, bring it in, and then it's going to just make a hinge point right here where the model bends and just swing that down. Now what that does is that'll change the top part of my model, and from this view it'll shrink it in the vertical direction a little bit. So what we're going to do now is not shrink wrap it, but artificially shrink wrap it, you could say, by doing it by hand. Now that might sound a little bit hard to do, but it's really not that bad when you're dealing with just a two-dimensional mode like this, where we're just working on the side of the model. I'll show you the first way that we do it, and then if you want a little more high fidelity, I'll show you how to do that so it is more true to the actual model up in the front half. So let's go right into this. So the first thing you want to do is get the model, or your decal, really close to the model here. When I say really close, I mean really, really close. Something like that. I mean, right here you can see that this is 1/10 of a meter there, so that's like 1 centimeter at most away from the model, which is about what we want. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into edit mode, select everything, and take off the don't see through everything, so I can see through everything. Now that might not sound really important, but for this it is, just because we're looking at it from the side. And what I do is I'm going to line up that point right there and cut through that point and the model. So let's just click down here, and I want to be at an angle here such that my cut isn't, like way over here, which would cause this portion up here to be much closer to the model than down here. It's just a little thing that I find makes it a little bit nicer. It's one of those things that you don't really notice all that much until you actually see it. So now here we have all of the different pieces right there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just select all these guys. This is where our loop selection comes in real handy. Alright, there we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this portion from the rest of the decal. So I'm going to hit P to separate the selected faces. And I'm going to go in and edit these guys. And what I need to do is make the center of this model, or this part of the decal, right along the axis of which they were all cut. Oops, I forgot a little piece here. I'm going to separate those, go into Edit Object Mode, and merge those two pieces. So now it's all one piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Vertex Mode, and I'm going to just select one point that's on the axis, or along the cut that I made. And I'm going to press Shift S and select Cursor, move the cursor to the selection. I'm going to tab out to go to Object Mode, and I'm going to hit Center Cursor. What this does is now, in my front view, it allows me to rotate about that axis cut that I made. So let's go and move this down. So this is exactly the point where a shrink wrap would leave you. So as you can see, this top looks kind of shrunken down, looks a little weird. So what we're going to do is we're going to scale this up. So we're just going to hit regular old scale. And see, that doesn't work there. So we have to go scale in the Y direction or scale in the Z direction to get this a little bit better. So it looks like scaling in the Z direction worked better there. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. And that's pretty close to where we had it originally. So now we're all set. Where are we? Well, as you can see at the front of the model here, towards the nose, we get the side of the airplane starting to come in a little bit. And sometimes these decals can really start to separate away. So what we can do is bring them back in. So I'm going to go in and merge our two portions of the decal together. So now it's all one model again. And I'm going to go ahead and separate the L and the U. Actually, no. First, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save some time. What I'm going to do here is duplicate this, rotate about the Z-axis 180 degrees, and in the N window, switch the Y value so it's on the exact other side. Now I can move this back and forth and get that approximately in the right position. That saves me a lot of time. If I'd gone ahead and separated this LU and rotated it in a little bit to match the contour of the model itself, that would have translated over here, and I would have had to undo that and then redo it for this SA. So rather than do extra work, I'm saving some time here. So let's go back in here. Use the B selection, which is a very handy thing because I can now select everything inside of that box. You just have to press the B value there. And notice that now these aren't all selected. So I'm going to switch out of the don't see it through all, so I can see through everything. I'm going to cancel out of my selection, press A to deselect, and come back here to select everything. Now the reason why it didn't work with that see-through faces on, or off anyway, was because when I separated the model, or separated the top of the decal, it made extra points right along the axis. So I had some points from the bottom half and from the top half there that are now overlapping. Now I could go through and merge them to get rid of them, but it's not strictly necessary for this. In a model where I had many more vertices, and the number of vertices was getting to the point of being too much, and it would cause some problems with lag and things like that, then I would go ahead and do the little tiny details there. But that's maybe 20 or 30 vertices total that I'd be working on, so it's probably not going to be worth the effort for something like this. So now we have our model, our decal separated there, and I'm going to go through pretty much the same procedure. I'm going to move my cursor center, or my object center, to there. Then I'm going to go up to the top view like this, and rotate about the Z-axis and move them in. So let's look in the N window. And I've found that roughly 2.5 degrees is what you need to do for this model. So I'll do this as 177.5. It's just the angle that this first little bit comes in at. Every model is going to be different, but for my 737s, that's the way it is. So I'm going to be happy with that. I'm going to now merge it back with the rest of the decal to lock in that rotate. And there's the decal sort of wrapping around. So now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing over here. I'm going to separate these guys. And I typically like to pick the point farthest to the back side of the aircraft, just so it doesn't have a, so it doesn't, when I rotate it, it doesn't create something that's sticking out beyond the surface of the rest of the decal. It's just an aesthetics kind of thing. It's not all that important if you're just trying to do a rough go through. So we'll call this 2.5. And then we'll merge it back, or join it back with the rest of these guys. And then I'm just going to go ahead and merge the two decals together. That'll help lock them in, so that if I need to move them back and forth a little bit when I import it into another model, it'll be okay. Whenever you can reuse decals and things like that you've already molded into the right shape, spend the effort to do that. At the end of this project, I'll show you how to get the tail and move that between models, but that's a little bit too advanced for where we're at right now. So now that we have the Lonza in there, there's only a few small things that we're going to work on. We got to put in the German flag there, and some other quick little things. So let's try and get that in there. What I'm going to do now is show you how to I've already imported the SRFs before, but let's go over it in a little bit more detail. The SRF file is a flat surface or non-moving part that you can import into a Blender that YSFlight uses. So all of the individual pieces here can be exported as a .srf file, so you can move them from model to model. So if I had done some awesome paint work on this base that I wanted to, from the fuselage that I wanted to bring it to another model, I could export this as a .srf file. So I could click that, export it, name it. Same thing as opening and saving and things like that. So let's go ahead and import the German flag. So we're going to insert a .srf. If you are also inserting or importing a DNM file, you'd also select this. So we're going to go out to my Air Berlin models, where I believe I had German flag. It appears it's not there. So let's see if I can find it. Oh, here we go. German flag SRF. Go ahead and import that. And you can see that now that's really, really big. Well, that's okay. I like to make all of my decals much bigger than actual. It makes it much easier when I'm scaling them down to get a nice resolution. So where is this going to go? Typically the flags are going to be in this part of the model. So I'm just going to put it on the bottom surface with the trailing edge in line with the trailing window. So I'm just going to get it into position roughly first, scale it down. And typically these are about that big, about 2 windows wide. I'm also going to move that in a little bit. So let's start rotating this into the right position. It'll take a few bits of trial and error to get it in where you want it to go. Sometimes it can be easier to separate these two from the rest of the model by using your divide by key on the number pad. But that right there looks pretty good. I can probably rotate about the Z-axis just a little bit more. And move it in just a tad. There we go. So now what we can do, just like with the decal up here with the Lufthansa, is duplicate this with Shift D. And I'm going to hit space here because I don't want to move this model at all. Space will accept the duplication. Let's go back and undo that. If I just duplicate this, now it opens up like the grab tool on me, so I can move it wherever I want. But by hitting escape, it'll go right back to its initial point. So if you accidentally move it after duplicating something, just hit escape and you'll go right back to the default place. So we'll open up the end window again, move it around to the other side, and then we're going to rotate it about the Z-axis 180 degrees. And it seems like we need to rotate it a little bit more. So we're going to undo that rotation if possible. There we go. And we're going to do 180 plus that. And there we go. That looks much better. Looks like we have a little painting issue here. So let's go ahead and try to touch that up. Let's go into Vertex Paint. Sample the surrounding color. There we go. Alright. So there's pretty much what our base model is going to look like. Next video I'll go into a little more detail about how we can extract the decals and such so we can use them in other models. So, happy modding. Keep up work, practice a lot. Practice is the best way to get good at this. Can't stress that enough. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section down below. Like always, I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. Good luck. Have fun.